Alrighty guys, what is up? Welcome back to Dyson Sphere Program with Lone Debater 7, and today we're just going to be catching you up on a little bit of work we did in between last episode and this one. So we finished expanding out our refineries, so we now have 4 basic oil refineries that convert crude oil into light oil, or refined oil, and hydrogen. So we've got 4 of those guys set up. We've got about 4,000 crude oil buffered in the tank as well. And then all this light oil and hydrogen are fed into 4 additional refineries, each utilizing the X-ray cracking recipe, which takes one refined oil and 2 hydrogens to produce 3 hydrogens and 1 energetic graphite. So with these I guess it's technically 8 total refineries and 1 pump, we're able to fully utilize all the hydrogen and light oil produced by these 4 refineries here and convert it into only hydrogen and energetic graphene. So basically, we've got a pretty good setup now. I did expand out our smeltery production as well, just so we always have energetic graphite going into our red matrix, or matricy production over here. So I've got 2 stacks of 3 because if you look at the production per minute on the reds, it's 10 per minute at max production. If you look at it at the blues, well, we got to get a little closer, but if you look at the blues, it's 20 per minute for each lab. So you need to have 6 matrix labs producing reds and 3 producing blues in order for them to produce the same amount of matrices, and that's kind of what we got set up here. Our hydrogen's doing okay. It's basically stabilized around 100 inside of this tank, but basically what this guy does, all the hydrogen from these 4 refineries gets fed along this belt and goes around to feed all of our X-ray cracking facilities. After that, it takes a detour into our tank if there's any left over. This tank then outputs through a splitter. Half of that splitter goes to our red matrix production. The other half gets put back on the feed belt for our X-ray cracking facilities. That way we can guarantee they always have the resources they need to continuously produce hydrogen. Now on the outputs from our X-ray cracking, they come down this way. Our energetic graphite goes down, fuels these 3 thermal power stations, and then any excess is stored in this little box right here. So as you can see, we're storing a little bit, but the 4 X-ray cracking facilities does appear to produce enough energetic graphite to run 3 thermal power plants, which is pretty good. It also produces a little extra so I can come over here and grab the fuel I want for my mech. Outside of that, pretty basic stuff. This splitter just combines the input or the outputs from 2 X-ray cracking facilities with the other 2 facilities, so it fills this bus a little bit nicer, feeds into the tank, and then same thing, this splitter takes half of the produce to send to red matrix production, and the other half goes back into input. This seems to work. I believe it's effectively indefinite production of hydrogen. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we're good. I'm just dropping off this hydrogen I've got in my bag because I don't really need to carry it. I also got rid of that graphene because I don't really need that either. Or graphite, it's not graphene. But we're going to drop this off, then we're going to go grab some iron, and we're going to take a look at something else today. So I've queued up a bunch of researches just in general to help burn through some of the science that we're producing now. And that's about it. So these are working through, these are all upgrades for the mecha that take red and blue science packs. But the big one that we got finished is we got the flight research unlocked. So the 2nd level engine, if we go into the tech tree here, Drive Engine 2, this guy right here, will allow you to fly between planets. So if we, first let's kind of make sure we've got enough shit to be able to set up a base somewhere. So we want more gatherers. Set that up. Yeah, 5's probably about right. Storage we're good on. We're good on this stuff. We're good on belts and well, we could use some advanced sorters. So let's fly over and pick up some advanced sorters real quick. Go over the factory. It has expanded quite a bit, I will say, since we first started, which is pretty fun. But we've got our storage area over here. And then we've got the science side of the factory over here. I kind of like having this split, if I'm honest. I think it works really well because then you don't have everything in the same area, like you're not cramped for space, or it doesn't feel like you're as cramped for space as you maybe should be. Either way, it may I'm good with it. So we're gonna build a few sorters before we take off as well, just because we have 380 megajoules worth of power, but I don't want to run out of power while we're doing our stuff. So let's top up our steel. We'll grab well, we'll maybe take 200 just so we've got it. We've got a fair amount of inventory space now that we've got basically production automated on all of our buildings and stuff like that. We don't have to carry as many base resources around with us. However, it is still a good plan to have at least a little bit of base resources. That way, if you do need to make a one-off craft, you can do it. We're also going to grab 200 stone, put that in our bag. I'm just looking here real quick. So my inventory was organized a little bit better. It's not super great anymore, but that's all right. Power poles, we don't really need. We could top that up to 50. Can top this up to 100. Throw those back in. What else? Prisms were pretty much maxed out on. Glass we could use, so we'll throw in some glass. I need some electronics, but those are on the other side of the factory. So let's fly over there, pick up electronics and magnetic coils if we need them, and then we'll be ready to show off the flight aspect of the game, which is pretty cool. This is kind of where the game starts to get a little more interesting, if I do say so myself, because what makes this game different from a lot of factory builders out there is the fact that you have a solar system to expand through, as opposed to just one planet, one like map, you know what I mean? So everything seems to be running pretty good. I kind of have to wait for research to finish up anyway before we can do any more. One thing I did want to take a look at, if we go into technologies here, the main thing I want to get is this guy, interstellar logistics, because that actually allows you to transport materials between planets. So like, for example, in order to make the yellow cubes, I know that we need titanium. There's no titanium veins on this planet, so we don't have a way to mass produce titanium on this planet. Like, you can go gather the small rocks around and that kind of stuff, and sometimes you get a little bit of titanium ore. So see, we got like a handful of titanium ore that we've just built up from breaking rocks over time on this planet, but it's nowhere near enough to be able to actually produce yellow science at any reasonable rate. So what that forces you to do is leave the planet, fly to another planet in the system, and find titanium. So if we scroll out here to planet view, we're on this guy right here. It looks like this guy is probably gonna be the closest planet. So, well, actually, they're about the same, 1.84, 1.86. So if we fly to this planet, now is actually probably the best time to do that because it's in range. This one, it's the worst time. We want to wait until their orbits are kind of synced up, so it's a shorter trip. So we'll probably go over to that ice planet and kind of take a look. Hopefully they have titanium and silicon and stone. Those are the three that we really need. And coal, so we can build thermal power stations over there. But we're going to set up our titanium production. And for the time being, it's just going to be, we produce the titanium on one planet, we fly over, you know, a full storage container worth of titanium back to our base, and use that to feed our yellow sciences, because in order to do the blue, red, yellow researches, you do need all three cubes in the same matrix lab. So we do need to ultimately have yellows produced on this planet here that we started on, unless we want to move everything on science, which I don't want to do, to wherever the titanium is. So we're going to set up a big titanium smeltery off on one of these planets that's near us and go from there. So that's the gas giant. We can't really fly to that, but let's go ahead and show you. So if we start off, we've seen this mode before, but if you hold down space or the up arrow key, you'll actually take off. And you go into what's called solar sail mode. You do want to be careful because changing directions, changing your acceleration basically, does burn a lot of fuel. So yeah, just bear that in mind. So since we want to get here before we die, if you hold down shift, it will accelerate you. It does burn a lot of fuel to do this. I normally get up to about 430 if you have 380 megajoules in the mech. That way you have enough residual power, and if you're full up in your mecha, which we are at the moment, you'll regenerate enough that you'll be able to perform the maneuvers required to slow down and land on the planet you're flying to. So we're going to Rostaban 4, it looks like. And hopefully they have titanium, silicon, and all the other good stuff that we're looking for. Now, I did make the mistake of not turning on the vein, or the resource filter, so I can see what's on the planet from afar. Basically, what you have to do a research for it. I think it's the first interstellar... I forget what it's called. It's this one. Universe Exploration 1 will unlock the filter for you, and then you can toggle it on and off. It'll show you what resources are around and where they are on the planet. That's really helpful if you're flying to a new planet, because then you can say, oh, well, alright, titanium, silicon, and coal are all in this same little area, so let's land right here, as opposed to landing somewhere else and walking there. Hopefully that makes sense. Not a big deal. We did accelerate a little bit more, almost up to 600 meters per second, just so we get there a little bit faster. Eventually you are able to warp. Like, there is a warp mechanic. I think that is drive 3 or drive 4 though. So we need to get yellow cubes or yellow matrices produced before we can actually make that. So no worries. We'll get into Rostaban and kind of go from there. I'm doing all the mech upgrades right now. I don't necessarily need to do that because it's like our mech is actually pretty good as it is. But we're going to have everything upgraded to tier 2, and we'll get all the tier 3 upgrades for the mech that we possibly can before we go back into just regular technologies in the tech tree. And then in the tech tree, what we're going to do next is we're going to get... I think we have titanium smelting already done. If not, we'll kind of prioritize that first, because we're trying to do this, or set up a titanium smeltery. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and get the yellow matrices researched, so we can start building them and set up the factory to do it. So we're almost to Rostaban, not too big of a deal. The big thing with yellow matrices is you need titanium. So bear that in mind. Unless you happenstance got titanium on your starter planet, you're going to need Drive Engine 2 in order to fly to a new planet to find titanium. Not a big deal. It is part of the game to fly to other planets and other celestial bodies in your galaxy or whatever. So it's fun. I actually really like it. The graphics are pretty cool too. Like, at some point, I know they're going to add combat into the game at some point. I don't know when exactly, because it is early access and they haven't necessarily said. But I just am imagining what space combat will look like in this game, because it is graphically a stunning game, in my opinion. So I'm just slowing down and kind of angling ourselves so we can land on this ice planet, Rostaban 4. So we're going to slow down even further and kind of make our descent. So that's silicon down there, and I think that white over here is titanium. What we can do is if we set on vein distribution, so there's 19 silicons, that is titanium over there, that's also titanium. But let me actually hop into the world view and just kind of see if there's a better spot, because I do want stone and coal. I don't really see any coal, so there isn't actually... Well, it says that there's a little bit of coal. So the coal is way over here. So we should probably go there first and build our power, and then what we can do is come up over here and use this stone and this titanium. So coal is right there. We need to fly off in this direction, I believe. And we're not going to actually go into flight mode. We're just going to use our like planetary flight type deal instead. That should be sufficient for us. So we're almost there. Just right over this way. And there's only 4 veins, so there's not a whole lot of coal on this planet, but there should be enough for us to build some thermal power plants and kind of get power set up. So let's go ahead and we're gonna double
One of your production facilities is
double
not
that.
powered.
And then we do need to build a couple windmills.
In order to maintain its normal
We'll build
use.
5 of them, I guess, and set those up to power these miners, so we can supply thermal power. But then after that, we'll be good to go. So I'm just gonna place all these, and it doesn't necessarily matter where you put them. I'm gonna try to keep them out of the way as much as possible, and keep them close enough that they're all connected to each other, so I don't have to waste Tesla towers, even though we've got 100 of them in the bag. All right, so from this point, we're gonna take this belt like that. We're gonna take this belt like that, and then we're gonna just kind of build out a little structure here so we can fit in some smelters, or not smelters, or well, actually it is worth it to smelt the coal into energetic graphite, I believe. Not only because it will allow us to have power when we come here if we need power for our mech, it also will allow us to improve like the burn rate on our thermal power plants. So this is actually not a bad call. You can feed coal directly into the thermal power stations, and that works, like it's fine, but you need a lot more coal than you need energetic graphite if you're doing it that way. So let's just kind of build a little line like that. That's where our energetic graphite is going to be delivered to the thermal power stations that we're going to set up. And my guess is that we can maybe have 4 or 5 thermal stations, and that will be pretty good for us. We do need to power this all up, so throw down that, and that's also part of why I wanted to have 5 turbines, just so we have enough energy to do everything. Once we get 1 thermal power station up, it'll be more than enough power generated to kind of take care of everything. But there we go. We've got our energetic graphite kind of doing its thing. Not a problem. Come down here, get that, and we're gonna start. Oh, I don't actually have any of these built. Well, that's funny. Let's go ahead and build 5 of them. Not a prob. Not a prob. That's why you want to bring resources with you when you go to planets, because if I didn't have the stuff to build the thermal power stations, we'd be flying back home to go pick it up. Okay, so let's look. Our replicators. Yeah, we'll get them in a minute here. Set up the power. And then I think we'll probably call the episode here for today. More or less, I just wanted to show off the refinery that I built in between episodes, so you can kind of see how you might go about getting mass production of red matrices. But outside of that, we'll get power. And I wanted to show off the flight mechanics since we had unlocked it just before I started recording the episode, actually. So there we go. We got both of those things done. We'll take that. So these guys are now in our power system, and we've got more than enough power to run everything to generate more power. We are going to put a total of 6 of these bad mammas down. And the reason for that is, or I need to build 1 more of these, huh? We're going to put down 6. And the reason for that is having 6 thermal power stations is a good amount of power to run like a titanium or really? Why? Okay, fine. Put it on top. There we go. Okay. So those 5 are all hooked. We just got to throw down 1 more right up here. Cool. And throw the sorter on him, and we are good to go. Okay, so this track does need to go 1 longer. Sometimes it's not always the easiest to see what's going on, but there we go. Make it 1 longer. Perfect. Now we've got 6 of them. We've got an extra drone task thing. Cool, that's great. But yeah, so there we go. Here's our power stations. We've got 14 megawatts of power. That's not bad. In between sessions, I'm going to run the power poles from this little power generator down here up to where the titanium, silicon, and stone are, and in the next episode we'll show you how to set up a titanium silicon smeltery. But guys, if you enjoyed the episode today, be sure to like, comment, subscribe as always, and until next time, this has been Lone Debater 7, and we will see ya.